I have the honor to come to this conference in 2011 and 2012, and well, most of you maybe already know what our previous work was focused on. We are a small organization in the center of Spain that work mostly in lands, in pools, and aquatic facilities. And our previous work was focused on live well performance and in early drowning detection. But we, for the very beginning, we was very worried about drowning and what is the meaning of drowning. In fact, our previous work was related with drowning, or at least for some aspect about drowning that we can, or we think that we can improve from the point of view or from the performance of live work, of the performance of getting an early drowning detection. That is our last work. Well, let me spend 30 seconds talking about the situation in Spain. In Spain, there is no countrywide regulation about water safety. In fact, we have 18 different regional governments, and the regulation is totally different in each one. The water safety of beaches are competence of form the local counties, and every local county has different ways to manage. Some are directly managed for the local counties, and there are very strong and very good live water service at beaches, but most of all are lack of something, lack of people, lack of equipment, or are contracted or are managed by private companies. Okay, so why we started this project? Because we can justify this with this WHO report that appeared last year, but we justify this project because we want to know why and what and where happened the drownings in Spain, and trying to design a study that could be easy to do and, of course, get quality data, qualitative information that we can trade in a standardized way and analyze and make an analysis. So the requirements should be easy to perform, should be affordable. We have no money to make this, and of course as much reliable as we can. We won't get only numbers, how many people dead or how many people are rescued. We want to have numbers, but also quality data that we can use to improve. Challenge. We want to give regular reports to increase people awareness in public impact and make public impact. And of course, we want to get a strong position with persons who take the key decisions in Spain about water safety to make that they move to make public regulations countrywide. Of course, we want to increase our position as a referent organization about drowning in Spain. Okay. Well, where we find data, we think that we record the drownings that are appearing in the internet, in newspapers, and in electronic newspapers and social media, and we collect this data. In a first stage, we spent 2 years collecting different news with predefined alerts in Google Alerts using several key terms like drowning, beach, river rescue, and we after add some new terms to be sure that we can get as much news as we can. Also, we contrasted these Google Alerts with human-made searches on the internet, mostly once a week, twice a week, and to verify that the Google Alert systems was really able enough. We are able to collect the most number of news. Well, this is some samples of what we get in Google Alerts, and Google Alerts send you an email with a lot of links, or some of the news that we are collecting in digital newspapers and in social media. Well, we collect, we think that the Google Alerts was good enough as a starting point. We collect, I think that mostly the 90% of the news that are published, maybe more, but we did additional searches anyway to be sure that we collect as much as we can. And we complete these searches with social networks, and we find very useful the websites of regional emergency service that usually publish all the interventions in a daily basis. We collect, we collect more than 300 incidents, but the total number of the news, of the individual news we collect, was over 900. From most, there are several from the same incident. So, with those data, we make a list of which kind of data can we extract from those news. And we make an access database with two main tables. One is of incident, that is the incident that happened, and the other was victims of this incident. And we perform several side tables to make the indexing of each incident. 4 people that are professional lifeguards were trained to manage this database, and one lead reviewer revised all the records to ensure that we treat all the data with the same consistency. Well, these are the two main tables. One, this is referred with to the incident itself, the date, if they happen in a supervised or not supervised area, what activity are doing the victims, who detect, if there are some hazards. For instance, are you swimming in red flag, green flag? So, who do the first intervention? Who is the first person who detect the victim? Well, we add geolocalization to make maps, you see before, and also there is a field with the whole test of the new. And from the victim, each victims of the incident, we collect all those data: gender, nationality, where they come, if they are local or not, or they are foreigner. If we can look for a cause, a main cause of the incident, risk factors, if there are some antecedents, if people have some pathology or not, who is the first intervening, if there are rescue equipment, who did the extraction from water, the drowning type, who did the resuscitation, and the final outcome. Okay. Okay. in big numbers. During the 3 years, we collect all those numbers. We collect, for instance, in 2015, nearly 3,000 alerts with nearly 25,000 different news, and from those there are nearly 588 incidents with nearly 700 victims. Okay? And please let me, I'm going to give only rough numbers, okay? I apologize because all the graphics are in Spanish, but I have put some as English word, but so I want only to highlight some of the findings, okay? Well, outcome, 57% was diseases, and 50% was released to the hospital. This is a sum of several of the data. Only a 3% was just injured because they fall or something else. Okay. When this is month, the left part is male and the right part is female. Of course, there is a peak in summer, very clearly. Okay, and if we get out the Canary Island, the path is more clear. Okay. We find that people most have an incident in supervised in beaches, and have in people with in beaches with lifeguards, and have beaches without lifeguards. But this means that more than 50% of the drownings are in beaches. Okay, but and almost 12% are beach sea related, fishermen, something else. Okay, but surprisingly, we have nearly 4% of drownings in public pools, and really it's an interesting point that we are looking for. What is the situation? What happens? Okay, we put in aside the backyard pools because mostly are children. Most of our children. Well, about if the hazard of the environment. Okay, we find that in most news, this is an aspect that is not mentioned. That means that it's not important, or that means that it's flat water at beach, or that means that the person who write the new thinks that it's not an important factor. Okay, it's a contributing factor. This is a challenge, it's a question. But if we get out this point, surprisingly, there are a lot of drownings who happens in green flag, or in pool or in water parks that are quiet water. Okay, interesting things to think about. Of course, this is very simple statistics, just a group of the results, and the statistic calculation are now doing so. I think it's interesting for us to think about the risk factor. We consider the age as a risk factor, okay? And the other thing that we find is that nearly 50% of the incidents are related with people with maybe a risk factor is age or illness, and the other or are not mentioned in the news, in the data we have, or are not very important, because the dangerous to be in a dangerous environment, red flag beaches or rough condition of the sea are only mentioned in no more than 10, 15% of the case. And only 4% of the cases are mentioned who are related with alcohol consumption or drugs. That, I think it fits with the numbers I've seen in another studies. Maybe it's lower. Okay. Drowning type. Okay, we have a lot of controversial with this point. Okay. Finally, we decide that if the news mentioned that the casualty has any symptoms of drowning, evident sense of drowning, we label it as drowning with aspiration. I know that it's a risky decision to do this, but we have no chance to make another decision. Or, well, we estimated that when a news says a victim is get out of the sea with symptoms of drowning, it means that that person has symptoms of water aspiration. Well, we take this decision on the design of the study, and in the other cases, we clearly identify when there is no any aspect that we can think we can fit in a predefined condition, we label it as possibly drowning. Okay. So it's 40% is we labeled as drowning with aspiration, but the most important is about over 13% is a loss of control, is just a rescue of people who need help and had to be rescued, but are not really in a danger of vital danger, and 6.6% is just in distress. That's in the very beginning of a drowning situation. Well, this is the age profile. At first sight, we would say that people over 50 years are most at risk. But the first numbers of the statistical studies says that this profile is not really concluent. Okay, but you can see that there is a peak here on children under 5. There are peaks on 40, 50, 60, 70, and 80 on males, of course, and very interesting that women, there are between 20 and 30, there are no women drowning. Very interesting question. I think that this is related with more with psychological aspects of the women than the risk. Okay. Well, about children, I want to highlight the children because we want to make a special study on that. Okay. Okay. Most children drown in backyard pools. More than 80% is a fact. And the other is on rivers, channels, hotel pools, and unsupervised areas. I can either to say that nearly 100% of the children drowning is related with supervision. I think that this is a fact. Okay. Elderly people. Okay. Upper one is female, and down is male, sorry, it's in Spanish, but you can see that there is a peak between 70s, okay? 60s, 70s, and decrease on 80s, of course, because the population is lower. There are less people that ages. This is data from the 3 years, okay, together. Foreigners. Most of people who go to the beaches in Spain are foreigners. This year we expect we have 60 or 70 million those people from abroad to Spain. That is more than the population itself of Spain, okay? And we find that about 30% of the people who has a drowning incident in Spain are foreigners. And this is the main countries that matches with the countries who give more tourists to Spain areas. Okay. Surprisingly, there are Morocco, Romania, and Russia. There are 3 countries that are not really touristic. Talking about Spain, but we have a lot of resident people who came from Morocco or from Africa or Arabian countries, and we think that this is a cultural question involved with those drownings. Okay. Well, we are now starting to make statistical studies. We are not doing this. We have a very good team doing this. And the first study says that there are a statistical significance dependence between outcome and livelihood. We can say, or I think that we are able to say in the future that livelihood is a key factor in the victim's outcome. Where there is a livelihood, you have more probabilities to not be a death casualty. Okay? I think this is very important. I will reinforce our position when we are talking to the local countries, saying that the livelihood service is not enough for this beach or for this condition or for the amount of people who are going to the beach. Well, the data suggests that people over 65 are most at risk, if you see the graphic, but the statistics says at the moment that it's not in that way, at least at the moment. We need more studies. But people over 65 seems to have a worse outcome, okay? We have been talking during today about this, but we think that there are some added factor as physical or pathological conditions, but I think that we need more post-mortem studies about this, because as Mike pointed, most of these people are labeled as drowning, but the triggering situation is not drowning. They drown because there are another circumstance under the situation. Okay. Well, we did a lot of other actions in this project, not only collecting data. We open a website, particularly for this project. We perform a map, a drowning map in Spain, where you can go into the website and you can see drownings pointed with some data, with a lot of data in each one. We open a special Twitter account in Twitter, and we release every time we release an information, a report about drowning in Spain. This is the latest one. It has 30 pages with a lot of graphics, a lot of data that help us to present for public responsibles, key persons, politicians, and so on. Okay, we have some limitations. Okay, Even though we have been improving our system, our search system during the last 5 years, we estimated that we only get this 75% of the drownings in Spain, because the official numbers for the Spanish Statistical Institute says that there are on average of 450 people death yearly, and we get about 350 or so. So, because not all are published, not all are getting in the newspapers and so on, and also we realize that we collect most of the drowning incidents that are people death. So our data are clearly biased to the fatal drowning. Okay. We realize that most of the news don't use the right terminology or not include the data that are useful for us, the kind of drowning, if there are witness people, how many times have people been in hypoxia, and so on. But most of all, we can get interesting data. And of course, some of the reports are contradictory or unreliable, or are repeat news from others, okay? And some information is missing in the process, okay? Well, we try to get impact with this project, and we have not getting enough impact, because the impact is tied with current affairs. When there is a children drowning, immediately we have a lot of phone calls from the news, from journalists, asking for numbers, asking for statistics, asking for advices. But if there is no public distress, we cannot get impact, and this is upset. Okay. Social media. We focus our social media just in Twitter for time reasons, of course. And Spanish Sport Federation during the last year is giving daily numbers of how many people is death about drowning, but they are only publishing figures, the big numbers, and so this is causing that the journalists are interested in how many drownings are today. They call all the Mondays and how many last week, and they are publishing only the numbers, but not are interested in any other thing. Okay, it's like traffic deaths. How many traffic deaths today? 10. Okay, 10, and they put a 10 so big, but they are not interested in what is the circumstances and what we are talking about, where we can make impact and prevent drowning. Well, we think it's perfectly feasible to collect information in that way. Okay? And we think that this, if we can structure the information and we can obtain data able to make an analysis, both quantitative and both qualitative. We can discuss about the qualitative and the interpretation that we have done of this data, but we think it is a project that you can start in your country with almost nothing, a computer and time to do it. Okay, you don't need money, you don't need time and people willing to do it. Okay. The next step for us is complete the data for the current year and trying to end a full statistic analysis from 2013, 2016. We have 4 whole years of data that I think that could be a very interesting period to make a good serial. Okay. Of course, we want to write a paper for submission to a journal. Is there any editor here? Magazine here? No. And one thing that we are doing is modifying the system of collecting data to be able to give quick numbers to the press. And well, so on, and we are working also on update our website and make an app for mobile phones, so you can have the data in your mobile phone. And so that's all. Thank you.